walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. Yeah, we're lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page, but we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay, Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, wheels stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay, red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. Whether you're watching live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, we are happy that you are here. I am Chris, and that over there, that is Mo. Mo, happy Friday, sir.
Happy Friday to you. Man, I was really pumped for the game last night, and I ended up having to go to my daughter's her last choir performance. She's graduating in June, and you know what? I think I made the right choice. I know I made the right choice. I enjoyed the music, enjoyed all the singing, and I could tell she was glad I was there. I was going to go and do a live play-by-play with Brett from N1, and I said, I'll meet you there at halftime. And by the time I got home at halftime, I didn't realize that halftime actually meant the game was already over. I didn't know.
This has been one of the strangest series because you look at it, it's 3-3, and the 3 games that Denver has lost, Denver has looked incapable on the offensive side of the basketball. Not, they had 3 rough nights where, one of their 2 best players didn't play well. Mo, absolutely incapable of doing anything on offense in their 3 losses. I mean, call it blowouts, call it getting the brakes beaten off you, but Denver looks like, an 8 seed playing a 1 seed in these 3 games. Like, that's what it looks like. It looks like a team that isn't even a playoff caliber team that is going up against easily one of the best teams in the league. It's not close. It's not competitive. It's not good basketball. And coming into this game, I was very pro Denver, and I thought Denver had kind of finally figured out. I'm not saying they couldn't have lost this game, Mo, but I wasn't thinking we were going to see a repeat of what we saw in games 1 and 2. And then seeing that last night, I look at this and I go, I don't know how I feel going into game 7. Because it's one thing if Denver loses this game and it's a close game. And I'm still going to say, well, you know what? I'm still feeling Denver because Denver has made a complete 180 from where they were those first 2 games. Minnesota is still a good team. So on any given night, Minnesota can beat Denver. But you take out those first 2 games, we're going to call those aberrations. And we're going to say that the series is more like what we saw the last 4 games. And I favored Denver in that situation. But then last night happens, and I said to myself, well, Mo, Minnesota has the opportunity to go out there any given night in this series and just destroy Denver and make it not even competitive. I have no reason to believe this won't happen in game 7. I mean, why should I say it shouldn't? We've seen it happen 3 times. So I don't know what we're going to get out of game 7, but I do know this. I have a lot more faith in Minnesota this morning than I did when we were talking about it yesterday, because yesterday I basically wrapped it up and said it's Denver's for the taking. And now I'm looking at Minnesota going, if they come out and win by 35 the next time they play, I'm not surprised.
I don't know what to make of this series. Like you said, it's almost like it's 2 different series. People don't realize. Think about this. Denver just won 3 games in a row. They just beat a really good Minnesota team 3 games in a row. And you're thinking, well, they've got control. And you almost forget, because they won 3 games in a row, how poorly they looked in games 1 and 2. And then Minnesota comes in, and this is it, right? We have to win to stay alive, take it to game 7. And they don't just win. I'll use the term, they beat the brakes off of Denver. Like, beat the brakes off them, the fender, anything you want to throw in there, windshield wipers, everything off of them. And it literally is two different series. Denver shot as a team 30% from the field, 19% from three. And I mean, they were so physically dominated. And I don't understand. Like, if you ask me today, who does momentum say is going to win this series? I know Denver's won 3 games in a row and they've played well. And I picked them to win the series. But when Minnesota has won, they have dominated Denver. There has not been good games. They flat out have owned them physically. And I do think it is wise to play Karl-Anthony Towns on Joker for 2 reasons. One, because Towns is about 6'9", 6'10". He has a lower center of gravity. He can get into Joker's legs. He's quicker than Rudy Gobert. And 2, when Towns is playing him, that means Gobert can come from the weak side and help alter shots versus having to guard him straight up. That's their best lineup. That's what works better in terms of matchups. I don't know what Denver does to counter it, because even though Aaron Gordon is much quicker and more athletic than Rudy Gobert, because you know Aaron Gordon isn't a consistent shooter, they're daring him to shoot. What Minnesota is saying is, and he's done it a couple of times, but what they're saying is, if Aaron Gordon's going to drop 30 on us, then we're going to lose, and we're going to tip our caps. That's what they're saying. If KCP and Aaron Gordon are going to beat us, then the series is over, because they're not giving Michael Porter any space. They're into his body. They're not getting him no open looks. And when you watch Jamal Murray kind of, to me, is the barometer for this series. Jamal Murray in games 1 and 2, he was horrible. In the next 3 games, he looked like Jamal Murray, the big shot maker, the guy that penetrates, the guy that can score. And then last night, and I was impressed, because remember, Chris, Anthony Edwards guarded him. Anthony Edwards wanted that assignment, and he got into Jamal Murray, and he locked Jamal Murray down. I don't want to leave out Jaden McDaniels. If you're the Timberwolves, when your defensive ace, Jaden McDaniels, can give you 21 points, like the defense is going to be there. But if he's going to shoot 8 for 10 and give you 21 points, that's a cherry on top. I'm looking at this series going into Game 7. I know it's in Denver, but I feel like Minnesota has all the momentum and all the confidence. I think your mic's not on, partner. Your mic's not on.
That was wild, Mo.
I've done that before. You know it. I've done it too.
I don't know if you saw Murray's comments coming out of the game last night, and they were funny. They weren't meant to be funny, but I found them quite humorous. He said that it's not Ant. That's not why he's not playing well. It's not Ant's defense, Mo. It's his elbow. His elbow's a little stiff. It's a little sore. It's a little stiff. And I think it's great that he feels that way. I think it's great that he's looking at it and saying, it's not him, it's me. If I just get me right, we're going to be good to go. I like that mindset, Mo. But if you're going to sit here and tell me that Ant has nothing to do with how bad you've looked in this series, sure, you're banged up a little bit. Sure, you might feel a little something in your elbow. But I get it, Mo. You don't got to come out and say the guy's locking me down. You don't got to come out and say that I can't get away from the dude. You don't got to come out and say that, can someone please, can we just run something where we're switching and he's not on me? You don't have to say those things, but you know he's thinking it.
He has to be. And he, come on, he is feeling the bigger, faster, stronger guy guarding him, right? Like, Jamal Murray doesn't have a physical advantage over Ant. And Ant is going through screens to stay with Jamal Murray. Like, some guys will accept screens and take the switch. He's not taking this. He's not accepting the screens. He's blasting through them or going under them really quick. And he is in his shirt. Look, Jamal Murray is a great scorer. And I think he's saying what great scorers say, like, it's about me. It's not about him. You're not supposed to give in and go, I can't do anything because this guy is locking me down. So I think he's saying the right things. And I think he's saying that more to convince himself than to convince us. And I'm sure Mike Malone will tell him, like, I know you're the man. And look, I'm not saying Jamal Murray can't get going. What I am saying is Anthony Edwards has guarded him sporadically throughout this series. But if he makes up his mind, I want him, I want that assignment from the jump, I think that's trouble for Denver. I don't know how they get separation for Jamal Murray because Anthony Edwards is going through the screens. You can't shed him. And if you shed him, who are you shedding him to? Jaden McDaniels? That's just as bad. I think for Denver to win Game 7, yes, Joker has to play well, but I think they're going to have to get big games from Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon.
Mo, tonight the NBA playoffs continue. It is Game 6, the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. Pacers have their back against the wall, down 3-2. Are the Knicks going to close out the series tonight, or do you see this going 7?
I think it's going to go 7. I feel like the Knicks could close it out, but look, if you're the Pacers and you lose the way you lost, it's kind of a return thing, right? They embarrassed the Knicks. We knew the Knicks would respond, and they embarrassed the Pacers. I have to feel that the Pacers have watched film of their last game over and over and over, and they're waiting for the Knicks. So I don't know if there's going to be a blowout, but I do think the Pacers find a way to take it to 7.
Mo, let's pivot a little bit here. We knew this was going to happen. We were waiting for it. And then coming out of what we've seen with the buildup to the draft and the scrimmages, and, it started with, this Bronny kid ain't very good. Look what he did in his first scrimmage, to now where we are, where he might deserve to be a late round pick. Now, I'm not that high. I'm not that low on Bronny. I think he falls somewhere in the middle. But, when the scrimmages are starting, Mo, and the thought process is this kid can't play, and then they end and you're like, oh, no, he can play. Of course, we're going to get a swing in the other direction that's a little bit too far. But what we knew was going to happen was if there was any indication that he could do anything with consistency on a basketball court, the rumor and innuendo was going to start to churn. And that is what is happening now. The Utah Jazz, Mo, are coming out of the woodwork as a potential landing spot for Bronny. They have a late pick in the first round. It is apparently someone they're potentially eyeing with their late first round pick. So, Mo, that has to open the door to the question of, well, would LeBron ever play in Utah?
No. No. This is not a shot at Utah. This is just staying in reality. LeBron James is a mega star. He's gonna be in a big market. Utah is not that big a market. It just doesn't stack up against the bigger markets. There's a better if Bronny should get drafted by the Jazz, then that just means Bronny will be in the league, his dad will be in the league, and they won't be in the same team. But his dad's not going to Utah. A lot of things will happen this offseason. LeBron playing for the Jazz is not one of them.
Now, Mo, do you think, because then you have to ask the question, right? You have to look at it, and we said this was going to happen. Any team that is looking at Bronny, are they not also looking at the possibility that LeBron might come there? And if you are a small market team like Utah, if you are a team like Utah where, let's be honest, you don't attract free agents, if you're a team like Utah where, let's be honest, there isn't much going on up there to do for guys that play for your team, if you are in that situation, if you know LeBron's not coming, then aren't you drafting Bronny because you think it's going to be an asset to your team? So, Mo, let's go that direction. Let's take LeBron out of it. Could Bronny be an asset in the first round to a team that is a small market team that knows LeBron James isn't coming to their team? So that means the only other reason you would take Bronny is you think that he's got something. Now, it could be marketability. It could be they're going to sell tickets. It could be a lot of still off-the-court things. But at the same time, he's not LeBron. His game isn't LeBron's game. He isn't going to be as good as LeBron. So, sure, I think in that initial season, that initial off season, you could probably sell some tickets. I don't think you're going to sell the place out because Bronny's there, but maybe you could sell some as opposed to, if you had picked somebody else with that pick, Mo. But then I feel like once he gets there and plays a little bit, going into that next season, you're not selling tickets just because Bronny, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like if that's what you're doing, if you're drafting him for the markability purpose, I feel like your window is one off season unless LeBron comes. And if LeBron's not coming after that one off season, you got what he is as a player on the court, which I'm not saying is terrible, but many have the consensus when it comes to NBA insiders, Mo, that he isn't a first round pick. So if you're going to make the leap and you're going to grab him and you're not an option for LeBron, what are you really doing?
Look, I'll say this. Maybe their scouting team, that they scouted him to the point where they recognize his strengths and they view him maybe as a project, but maybe somebody who can be impactful and somebody who could break into their rotation. Look, I think that Bronny James, like I said before, I've said it many times, he has naturally good instinctive defensive ability. He can already, I think, right now be a very good point of the attack defender. What he needs to be consistent at, though, is you have to make defenses honest, so you can't be a liability on offense. So, and he seems to have an improved jump shot. He's extremely quick. He's athletic. I think the Jazz, and look, they have a great a scouting team, so I think they're looking at him and they truly believe it's not. I don't think it's a marketing thing. I think it will help to a degree, sure. I think they value him as an asset, and look, they might very well be right. I want to remind people that one of the guys is one of the best six men in the league, who the Lakers drafted, who now plays for the Jazz. Jordan Clarkson was not a first round pick. And Jordan Clarkson has been a tremendous player. Draymond Green is a 4-time All-Star, 4-time champion. He was not a first-round pick. He was a second-round pick. And look what he's done with his career. So a lot of times there are a lot of guys that get lost in the shuffle and you don't realize how good their games translate to the next level. So I think if the Jazz are seriously considering Bronny, it's because they see something in him and they value those assets. His skill sets, like I said, defensively, I think he's ready right now. But there's two sides of the ball, and I'm not sure his offense is where his defense is. But that's the whole point of developing a young player like that. Maybe he's in the G League for year one, or he's got one of those those two team contracts where he does the G League, he does the NBA, comes up to the main team. I don't think it's a gimmick, because remember, even though Utah doesn't attract the biggest free agents, they sell out almost all the time. They're one of the biggest fan base, most consistent fan bases in the NBA. So I think they value him. And look, if he goes there, LeBron's not going there to play, but will LeBron show up to watch him play in Utah? Absolutely. LeBron will show up and watch his son play in a heartbeat. And how would that look when LeBron shows up with the Lakers to play Utah on the road? That will be interesting as well. So I think he has value marketing, like you said, maybe in year one, but I think they're looking down the road and they really value him as a basketball player.
I'm going to create a situation here that I think could happen, that maybe no one cares about, but maybe people do care about. Let's say he goes not to the Lakers. LeBron returns to the Lakers. They're on different teams. If the Lakers have a game the same night that Bronny makes his NBA debut, is LeBron at that game?
Yes.
And do Laker fans have an issue with it?
I don't know if they do or don't, but he's gonna go. They'll get over it. I'm just being real.
I agree. He's gonna be there. He's not playing that night for
right.
LA. He will be wherever his son is when he makes his NBA debut.
Right.
The league might feel a certain way about it because he'll probably be healthy.
I'm sure, but guess what? He could say for personal reasons, and it would be for personal reasons. He's going to see his son play. So look, how many people are in the situation that LeBron's in?
Right. The NBA won't schedule that.
well, then that's what will have to happen, because if that guy's playing his first game, LeBron's going to the hooker by crook. He's going to watch his son play, and Laker Nation will get over it.
My other question, Mo, is not only will LeBron be there, I think there's going to be a whole contingency of a who's who there to watch Bronny's first game, because Bronny's got a lot of support too from former NBA players.
He does.
So I think we're going to see a quite the show out for his first game, regardless of where it is.
I'm sure Wade will be there, Melo. His brother, of course, Bryce will be there. His mom will probably be there, Savannah. So, yeah, I think he's going to have a ton of support. And like I said, do I see him being a star? He didn't have to be a star, but I do think he can be a legit NBA player. He can be an impactful player. And I think that's what he's saying. When he did his interview, he said, I'm trying to cut out a path for myself. And I love that about him, that he wants to be more than just LeBron James' son. I respect that.
Well, before we pivot away from the NBA, I want you to listen to this. I want you to think for a moment about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And this kind of, I knew this, but I didn't know this. Jason Tatum has been to 5 conference finals in 7 years. Jaylen Brown has been to 6 conference finals in 8 years. In a vacuum, that's tremendous.
It is.
Like if you just said, hey, these two players played together, one went to 5 and 7, one went to 6 and 8, and that's all you said, you would walk away from that being like, damn, they did some work while they were together. But then, of course, context is king, and you look at the teams and the end result and everything else that goes along with it. So, Mo, I have to ask you right now, and obviously we don't know how this season is going to play out, but let's say they don't win a title this year. So right now, looking at that, what is the legacy of these two players in their time together? Can you look at it as a success? Is it just a failure because of the lack of championships given the opportunity to have championships? Like, what does that look like? And I know there's more story to be written, and I know that these are both fairly young guys, and they're going to probably be in a lot more Eastern Conference finals over the course of their careers in Boston. But you see that stat, and you're like, wow, that is dominant. 6 and 8, 5 and 7, they're always there. But then you look at the end result, and you're like, okay.
And I think that I've seen people bring up that different numbers about how much winning they've done together. And I'm like, I know that. They actually had a graphic that showed that they've won more games than Giannis has in his stint in Milwaukee, and more than Joker, Jamal Murray in their stint in Denver. And I'm like, and I get that, and that's all well and good, but they haven't won any championships.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go, I'd rather, it's kind of like the Lakers situation. I don't want to make it about the Lakers, but if you say, well, Mo, the Lakers haven't been that good over the last 5 years, but the Celtics have been very good, Mo, for the better part of 8 years, right? And I would agree with that. But we did get a championship within the last 5 years. When was the Celtics' last championship? Oh, yeah, that was like back in 2008, right? So that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, they've won more. But you don't play to just be very good. You play to win titles, and they have not won titles. And I think that if Boston goes to another conference championship, which they're going to, and they don't end up winning the championship, it is a failure. It's a failure. If they're not going to win it all in this particular season, they're never going to win in the Jason Tatum era. This is the year. This is the best opportunity, and yet it's not a lock. The thing about it is, what if they never end up winning a title? What they're going to say is the Brown and Tatum tandem they were terrific, but it's disappointment, right? You're not, because what people are going to throw at you is, well, he averages more points per game than Larry Bird, and they've won more games. They can throw you all kind of numbers, and I can go, right, and that's all well and good, and yet how many times have they hoisted up that Larry O'Brien trophy? Right, that's what I'm talking about. Like, never. So to justify this partnership, if they win one title, just one title, it justifies this pairing and this partnership. But they need to do that.
And Mo, let's not forget, the finals appearance they had, many feel like they should have won that. They were definitely favored going into that finals pretty heavily. And obviously the Warriors deserved that title. The Warriors played well in that series. But going into that series, people forget about this. They want to celebrate what the Warriors did for their 4th championship. Boston was a heavy favorite going into that series, and rightfully so. And a lot of that series was, where in the world is Jason Tatum? That's what happened a lot in that series, especially late in games, especially for entire 4th quarter stretches at times. So if that's the only finals they make, then I think that hurts them even more, because you look at it and you say they went once, they were a heavy favorite in the one they went to, and they literally disappeared in that
That's a great
series.
point. That's a great point.
So, because if that's the only one they get to, you can even be like, but it was a close one. You know, it was a great all-time NBA Finals. The Warriors just came out on top. No, you were favored to go in, and there were games that you lost leading in the 4th quarter when your best players just didn't take shots. There were moments in that series in the 4th quarter where Tatum didn't shoot the basketball. So, I mean,
And
it's all
that
part
wasn't
of
the
it.
best. And that wasn't the best. That was the weakest Warrior team. Like that.
Yeah.
That Warrior team was not expected to win a title.
Nope.
And nobody expected Andrew Wiggins to play Jason Tatum even. That shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to happen. And I'm not dogging Wiggins. I'm just talking about looking at what his career has been versus with Tatum's career. That's supposed to be a lopsided matchup. And I think in a lot of ways that sums up Jason Tatum. Nobody questions his talent. Nobody denies he's probably a top 5 player. He's even had big moments, like when he came up big versus the Bucks and they ended up winning that series. But he has moments, and then he has a lot of moments where he disappears, where he and Jaylen Brown, they don't show up. And again, you want to justify that pairing. One title will make that partnership legit, because if you win one, obviously the hope is to win another one, and they'll probably always they're going to be in contention. But if you win the one, and I just went black for some reason, I have no idea.
Keep talking.
But
keep talking.
if you just win the one, I think it justifies that pair. Remember, not even talking about the money, Chris. Remember, Jaylen Brown just got a $300 million contract, right?
Yeah.
Jason Tatum's going to sign for an even bigger, larger extension. You want to justify having 2 guys take up over $600 million of your salary? They better win a title. They better win at least one title, because if they can't do that, one of them is going to be leaving town.
And if you're Jaylen Brown, I mean, holy cow, what a great spot you're in. No one criticizes you. It's all Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum isn't a dog. Jason Tatum doesn't have the killer instinct. Jason Tatum disappears in the 4th quarter. Jason Tatum has all the talent in the world, but he can't consistently put it together for an entire playoff run. Tatum. And you're sitting over there as the $300 million man, the Robin to this Batman and Robin. And on some nights, you're the Batman yourself.
Some nights.
And you don't got none of the criticism. No one's saying, well, Jaylen Brown just can't. Nope. When you have a bad game, sure, people get on you. But no one's getting on you the way they're getting on Jason Tatum. And if I'm Tatum, I'm sitting here like, who? Anyone else doing this alone? Anyone else winning titles by themselves? Because I got a number 2 and no one wants to say a damn thing about him.
Isn't that the way it goes, though? When everything goes right, we acknowledge what Batman does. And when things go wrong, well, damn it, Robin didn't hold up his end of the bargain. It's Robin. That's why things went wrong. Like that happens more times than not. I remember Jaylen Brown actually played fairly well in that finals. He had a big problem with turnovers, though. He just, because of his handle, he kept getting ripped. But I look at those two, and you're right. Jaylen Brown doesn't take the heat, and he doesn't take the heat also, Chris, because like you pointed out, nobody ever argues if Jaylen Brown plays harder or if he's got that dog in him. Tatum's more talented. There's no dispute. But Jaylen Brown is all heart. Like if you said who's the heart and soul of Boston, I don't think it's Tatum. I think it's Brown. I think he's the pulse of that team. And look, if they're going to win a title, yes, Tatum's got to be great. But I think Brown's got to play well too, and he will get criticism. When you're in the finals, the spotlight gets bigger for everybody. So it'll be bigger for Derek White. It'll be that much bigger for Jrue Holiday, even though Drew's been there before and won. It's going to be different. But and we're getting ahead of ourselves. Heaven help them for whatever reason if they don't make the finals. If they don't make the finals, like, no disrespect, the Pacers and Knicks team, that series has been a terrific, intense series. But the Knicks, just by default, with all the players they're missing, even though they play, I mean, they go all out and give you everything they have, I don't think they're going to be a tougher matchup just by default because of the lack of bodies they have. You don't think that the Celtics know that Jalen Brunson is going to shoot the ball 29 times a game? They do. You don't think that Jrue Holiday and Derek White are better matchups than anything Indiana has? They are. Not to mention Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And on the flip side, if it's the Pacers, yes, they're fun to watch. They play with pace. Do they play enough defense where they would stop Boston consistently? Absolutely not. That's not going to be a good series either, or at least it's not supposed to be. That's where Jason Tatum takes heat. You're supposed to walk in there and it's the Pacers. Okay, gentlemen's sweep, right?
Right.
It's the Knicks and they're missing 2 starters, 4 of their rotation players. It's just Jalen Brunson and some role players. Y'all supposed to take them out. I know they play hard and they're competitive and all those things. You have more talent. You have more depth. Take them out. And when it doesn't happen, people will look at Tatum and they go, he's hella talented, but is he that guy? Is he that guy?
And Mo, for Knicks fans, I hope they have an understanding of what this is shaping up to be. Because as fun of a series as this has been with Indiana, they are still a Knicks team that is missing pieces right now. And if you win this series, which I think they're going to, and you're going to get yourself into the Eastern Conference Finals, and you're the 2 seed, and you're going against the 1 seed, and you're going to feel great about yourself, but you are going against a team that is so much more talented than anything you have played thus far in the playoffs. And there have been moments in the playoffs where the Knicks have had it's been a little bumpy for them. It's been a little bumpy with some of their injuries, and that's against talent that is far inferior to what they would face with the Boston Celtics. So, I mean, if the Knicks knock off the Pacers, Mo, if it's a 5-game series, I'm not surprised. With the injuries that the Knicks currently have and the ability that Boston has when everything is firing on all cylinders, and that's always the question with Boston. Can they put it together consistently for an entire playoff series? Well, if they're both playing at their optimum, given the injuries that the Knicks have, Boston wins that 9 out of 10 times.
Agreed.
But this is why we play the games, though. We play the games to see what happens.
Facts.
But I think Knicks fans need to go into this series understanding we're not on the same footing as Boston. We are an underdog in this series, and we are going to need some things to fall our way if we are going to win it. Not saying the Knicks can't win the series, but I've seen Knicks fans chirping, and I've seen Nick, because remember when the Knicks drew the Pacers, the initial reaction was the Knicks got a bye. The Knicks just got a bye in the second round of the playoffs. Well, it's not a bye if you're going to a game 6. That's not how buys work. Buys are basically 4-game sweeps. It was pretty simple. Everyone's just kind of getting their work in and we're good to go. And that hasn't been what it is. And then you're going to go play a team that is far more talented in almost every aspect than the Pacers. So I just hope they caution themselves. Don't think you're going in there and being on the same footing as Boston if you find yourselves in the Eastern Conference Finals.
And they're going to say some of the same things that you and I said tonight or today. They're going to say, well, Jason Tatum, if we're physical with him, he won't be as good. If we get into their bodies and we're more aggressive and we win the 50-50 balls and we win the rebound, there's a lot of reasons to say how you could win. But for them to win the series versus the Celtics, they would have to get help from the Celtics. You know what I'm saying? Like the Celtics would have to come in there very casual, very not business-like, not we need to stomp on this team because we're better. If they're anything other than coming out to put them away, then the Knicks will make it a series. But That's about Boston, not about New York.
Mo, sometimes things happen in sports, and as fans, you just have to sit back and ask yourself, what the hell are you doing? And I think that's where we are all sitting this morning with the kicker from the Kansas City Chiefs, Mr. Harrison Butker. Harrison was invited to speak at a commencement ceremony over this past weekend, I believe it was. And at the commencement ceremony for this school, he went into this diatribe about how he wishes that we lived back in the 1950s. And during that speech, if you will, he tore women apart. He tore apart different sexual orientations, and he insulted a lot of people. He insulted a lot of people in what he said. Now, Mo, I will tell you this. I am a firm believer that athletes are not required to be role models. I don't think that just because somebody makes a lot of money and they have a God-given talent at something, that automatically makes them a good human being. I'm also not saying that Harrison Butker is a bad human being. I think that Harrison believes what Harrison believes, and he has a right to believe whatever he wants to believe. But at the same time, Mo, you are an NFL player. You are not just an NFL player, you are an NFL starter. You are somebody, if you look at the special teams groupings around the league, some would say you're pretty good at what you do. Oh, and by the way, you're playing for the two-time defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, who are looking to win their third in a row. Feel how you want to feel. Believe what you want to believe. Everybody has a right to do that. That is why we live in this country, and that is one of the privileges of living in this country. But Mo, to not be intelligent enough to know what you were going to create by making the statements that you made during a commencement ceremony, where, by the way, Harrison, it wasn't about you. It's not like you were on your podcast or something or you were doing an interview and someone specifically asked you about this topic and you were just speaking your truth because you were asked about it. You were literally in a situation where you were there to celebrate the future of America, and you chose to use that platform to dive into your personal beliefs, which, again, believe whatever you want to believe. But because you did what you did, the NFL has already came out and made a statement. The NFL has already come out and completely distanced themselves from Harrison. They have said that we are not in line with what he said. They have basically said that it was inappropriate in many ways, as a business should, because you can't allow yourself as the shield to have that smeared on the shield. So they had to go out there and wipe the shield off. And you know, Mo, when the NFL wipes off the shield, whoever gets run over in the process, they don't care because you protect the shield first. And now there are rumblings and there's a petition going around that Kansas City should release him and this, that, and the other thing. And I don't know if the Chiefs have made a statement on it yet or not. But Mo, we have seen celebrities lose everything for a lot less. So knowing that and knowing the climate of this country and knowing what 2024 looks like, the fact that he would go out there and say the things that he said, whether they are his truth or they are not his truth, to me, Mo, anything that happens in the fallout, it's on him. You should have known better. You should have known that wasn't the platform. You should have known that as an active player in the NFL, you just shouldn't have voiced that at all. Voice that when you retire. You got, 7-8 years in your career left? Great. Go make all your money. Go win all your championships. And when you are a retired player with 4, 5, or 6 rings for the Kansas City Chiefs, then you can come out and talk all the smack you want to talk about the 50s and women and other groups in America. Go do you. But to do it now and then just think that everything's going to be okay because you were just speaking your truth, Mo, I think he's an absolute idiot. Not because of how he feels, but because he thought that this wasn't going to potentially cost him his career.
I think he's an idiot because you were invited there for a commencement ceremony. You know what I mean? Like stick to that, right? Like if you felt the need to talk about how you missed the 50s, which I don't get because clearly you wasn't born in the 50s. You don't know what the 50s is like. What the hell are you talking about?
You didn't live through that, sir.
You didn't live through that. And I mean, we want to really dive in deep. The 50 wasn't that great for the brothers. So I'm just saying, like, everybody don't miss the 50s. So I don't.
Who, by the way, you play with a lot of people.
Right,
of that skin color who have grandparents that lived through the 50s and parents who lived through the 50s.
Right. So I'm wondering what they're going to say to him in the locker room. Like, so you missed the 50s, huh? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, really, man? Like, he didn't put a lot of thought into this, but he clearly felt like he needed to say this. So I don't think it was an accident. I think he went there with the intention to voice his opinion for whatever reason. And like you said, you're still in the middle of your career. And if you wanted to keep a career, you don't voice that opinion at a commencement speech. Maybe if you can go on a podcast and well, this is my podcast and it's separate from the Kansas City Chiefs and this is how I feel, that might fly. And I'm saying might because still, if you're an active player, what you says, it doesn't just impact the league. It directly impacts your team, your franchise, your locker room. Chris, you just said it. There's people of brown and dark skin that are going to be like, and what is that supposed to mean? You missed the 50s, man. What are you saying? Like, they're going to feel some type of way. Somebody's wife is going to feel some type of way about what he said. What do you mean women belong here or they're speaking out too much? Like I don't think he realized the impact of his words as he was speaking them, even though he intended to say them. So I'm with you in you absolutely can feel how you feel. It's your opinion and you can voice it. But when you do voice it, where he voiced it at, be prepared for the consequences because there should be consequences. And I've actually read different articles about this, and I was like, the consensus is that most people think the NFL should have gave him a suspension or something of that nature. That may come down, or maybe it won't. But what I thought about is those comments that he said. And these are comments from his heart, Chris, right? This is how he feels. Those comments to me, they were a lot more damaging than a guy taking a knee.
Yeah.
You feel me?
I see you.
A lot more damaging, and that guy never got to play again. So I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. And again, we get into this whole conversation and it's always centered around race. And I think people need to understand this is not a freedom of speech conversation. This is I work for a company that has an image to uphold, and I cannot be doing things that are going to tarnish the image of the company that I work for. Now, if you don't want to live up to that responsibility and you don't want to have that pressure on you, then you have every right to no longer work for that company. But if you want to continue to be an NFL player and make the money that you're making and have the success that you're having, and I don't know if he had a personal connection to this school or not, but my gut feeling is him being a Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs might have been a part of the reason why he was there. Maybe it wasn't, though. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe he has a personal connection and he would have been invited there anyways. I find that hard to believe, but I digress. If you don't want to do this, and you just want to say the things that you want to say, that's fine. Go work in a field where you are not the face of a company. And I'm not saying he's the biggest player in the NFL. He's not, but the NFL views it all the same. If you are a player in this league, there are certain things you can and cannot do. And that's just the way it is because we put this shield first. And there are many companies out there, Mo, where people make a really great living. And they can't just go out there in the world and say whatever they want to say, whether it's their truth or not, because it's a bad look for the company. And that's just a part of, I don't know, life. So this has nothing to do with freedom of speech. This has nothing to do with suppressing his feelings to protect anybody else. This is simply you made comments that look bad on the NFL. The NFL had to respond. Mo, if you ever do anything where your company has to release a statement based on your actions, you did something wrong. Right. If your company has to release a statement on what you did on a Sunday or a Saturday afternoon when you were not even working for your company, something was out of kilter, and that's a bad look for you, Mr. Harrison. So if I don't know if he gets fired. I don't know if they release him, but I'll tell you what, whatever happens, it's on him. It's on him. He just shouldn't have said it.
My guess is he doesn't get fired. Maybe he faces some kind of suspension or a fine or something of that nature. And look, I honestly, I think if that's what happens to him, I'm okay with that. That is a form of discipline, right? And even though the NFL, we would call it the Shield, has been around for a long time, I think they're still adjusting to the things that are going on in the country too, right? I think they're still learning as well. So how they deal with him in this situation, sure. A lot of people are calling for his job. I'm not going that far. I'm simply saying that he probably does need to be reprimanded. There should be a fine. There should be some kind of suspension to let him know this is not how you represent the NFL. Like you said, you can't go to work on a random day and then just go off on your boss and everybody above him and go, I'm just speaking my truth. And I just wanted to get that off my chest, and then go stomping off to the lunchroom like everything's okay. You're not going to have a job. That's what's going to happen. That's reality. That's life. And the same applies here. He had to know, like you said, he's a Super Bowl champion. He's not the most high profile player on the Chiefs, but you do represent the NFL and the Kansas City Chiefs. And consequences of your words, they do matter. So again, I'm with you. People have every right to feel how they feel, but when you say stuff like this that I wouldn't say is in lockstep with the entire country, there's gonna be some hell to pay to a degree. There's gonna be some kind of punishment that's gonna come down that you're just gonna have to man up and take it.
Well, we knew this was coming. It was a foregone conclusion. The only way this didn't happen would be if Tom Brady went back and decided he wasn't going to enter the booth. But once we knew for a fact he was entering the booth, we knew we were going to get here. And where here is that Tom Brady has officially been announced as being on the number 1 broadcast team, which means that Greg Olsen is dropped back to the number 2 broadcast team. Greg Olsen, who did nothing wrong. Greg Olsen, who has been really good at what he has done on the number 1 broadcast team. And we don't know what Tom Brady is going to be. We assume Tom Brady is going to be good because Tom Brady puts in the time and the effort to be good at every single thing that he does. And he's relentless when he does it. And he can say that, coming out of the roast, that his exercise and his diet and all of his little routines in his life were exaggerated. And they don't really like that. I don't know, Tom. A lot of people that know a lot about you really knew some intricacies about your routines and how you prepare for things. So you can say they exaggerated a little bit, but it sounds to me like everyone pretty much knows that when you go into something, you go in 3,000%. So do I think he's going to be an abject failure as a broadcaster? No. Will he be as good as Greg Olsen? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
That's a high standard.
It is. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that he's not replacing someone who is average or below average, who is just in there filling a void. He is replacing someone who has turned into a quality broadcaster. And it's unfortunate. And like we talked about when we spoke about this a couple of months ago, Olsen did nothing wrong. It's Tom Brady is just a bigger name. They paid Tom Brady a lot of money. And by default, this is a pay cut for Greg Olsen. The number 2 team doesn't make as much as the number 1 team. And that's unfortunate, Mo, because, again, it's not because of his quality of work. It's simply because of happenstance and situation. So it's not because you weren't good. We just think he's going to be better. We think that he's going to bring more eyeballs to the screen. So we got to put you on the 2 team. Oh, and by the way, it's going to hurt the bank account too, because you can't make number 1 money on the number 2 team. You got to make number 2 team money. Sorry, Greg. We appreciate you, though.
That's a great conversation. I would love to have been there for that conversation. you know you're being replaced by somebody you're better than. You're being replaced even though they concede you're terrific at your job. It's almost like the conversation starts off like Greg's getting a promotion. They're talking about how great he is and what he's been. And then they break it down and simplify it, but it's Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady. It's as simple as that. You're Greg Olsen. It's Tom Brady. Bigger name, bigger personality. Period. It's Tom Brady. And Greg Olsen is like, yeah, but I've become terrific at this. Tom might never even come close to what I am. And he's like, he might not, but it's still Tom Brady, and we're going to give it a try. And look, Greg, we love you. That's why we're not firing you. We're just putting you in the number 2 team. So you're still part of the family. You're still appreciated. Oh yeah, there is going to be a pay cut, but don't worry, your vacation time is still the same. You know what? I mean, that's a crazy conversation to have, and I'm gonna give Greg Olsen all the credit in the world for being a professional, just eating that, and being like, okay, all right, this is it. And maybe what Greg Olsen is thinking, like, okay, all right, I'm gonna go out and do my thing and be great, and then when Tom collapses, you guys are gonna come back to me, and I am gonna get that raise.
The number will be higher than it was the last time I was
much
here.
Higher, right? Much higher. Greg's gonna keep going like this. Keep going.
That's a nice offer, but we're not there yet.
Right. Yeah. And but I'm with you, Chris. Tom Brady doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that fails at many things. My guess is somewhere in his home, he has built in a studio and he's had people come in and do interviews. I mean, he's always prepared. So I would be surprised if he doesn't do this very well.
I agree. All right, Mo, before we get out of here on a Friday, we're going to jump into a world that you know much more about than I do, and that is the world of boxing. We are getting closer. I don't know what you want to call it.
Oh, no, I know where you're going. I
don't know what you honestly want to call it as a boxing fan. I'm going to call it a spectacle. We're getting closer to the spectacle that is going to be Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. They had a weigh-in, an altercation. I don't even know what you want to call that. It felt very WWE-esque to me. Jake Paul, I don't know what routine he is on, but his body is jacked to a whole different level right now.
I saw him. He's massive right now.
Like, they're calling him Fat Jake, but like he just I don't know, it's just bulk. Like, if you look at him in his lead up to his last 3 or 4 fights, he has never looked the way he looks right now. Like, right. Yeah, he is bigger, he's thicker. I don't know what he's doing. And I'm not going to speculate because I have no idea what that even looks like, because I know that fighters and boxers can put on weight and drop weight like it's nothing. Well, he has put on a lot of weight, and it's not just pudgy weight. He is big. Right. But Jake Paul, he is now taking the defined step of saying, Mo, he's going to knock out Mike Tyson. He's not just saying he's going to beat Mike Tyson. He is now saying that he's going to knock out Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson was coming out and saying, listen, boy, you've been fighting children. You've been beating up on little kids. You ain't never fought a real man like me before. And when we step in there together and you step in there with a real man, it ain't going to be the same outcome that you've been having when you were fighting these little kids in all your previous fights. And then he turned his back on him. And he turned his back on the man. I was there for it. It was entertaining. It was literally, I was like, Triple H, you write this? Who is The Rock here? Did The Rock people write this? Who's here right now? It was definitely entertaining. But Mo, we talked about this, and I think when the fight was first announced, it was like, Jake, what are we doing? He is a real we know he's older, and the skills may not be as sharp as they once were, but he didn't forget how to box. It's not like he just forgot how to do it. And if you get him in there, the last thing you want is him to have a moment where he remembers exactly how to ride the bike, and that is his glove coming across your face, and that's the end of it. But Mo, where are we now? You've seen what Jake looks like. Do you feel any differently about this? Do you think Jake's going to knock out Tyson?
What I feel is, I want to remind everyone, and I could be wrong. I believe now Jake Paul's still in his 20s, right? Late 20s?
Late 20s, I believe. Yep.
Right. So we still are talking about he's fighting a man that's 30 years older than him.
That is true.
So I can simplify this. Young man fights old man. Young man beats up old man. That I mean, it's caveman talk, but you can tell me Mike Tyson hasn't fought in a long time and you can forget how to fight. You can tell me about his power. I can tell you the last time I saw Mike Tyson fight, he was 38 years old, much younger than he is now, and he got dropped by a bartender. He got beat up by a bartender at age 38. You're wanting me to believe that the 58-year-old Tyson is going to be better than the 38-year-old Tyson because he's fighting Jake Paul, who I'm going to assume is probably a better fighter than that bartender was. So I'm assuming Mike Tyson's not going to win. And it is highly likely that Jake Paul will knock Mike Tyson out. And people are going to be disappointed because I think a lot of people expect Mike Tyson to knock him out. And Mike Tyson he looks very impressive when he's hitting the heavy bag and he's going back and forth with his trainer, but they don't hit back. And the first time he gets hit, that's the difference. Like, Mike can't avoid punishment like he used to. He couldn't avoid punishment when he was 38. I'm supposed to believe he's gotten better and quicker defensively at 58. Look, I didn't think this was a good idea. I still don't think it's a good idea for Mike. Mike has everything to lose in terms of his credibility and the aura that he has about him. Jake Paul has nothing to lose. If Mike Tyson beats him, even though he's 58, people are going to go, that was Mike Tyson, man. You should have known. But if Jake Paul clocks Mike Tyson, it's going to elevate him, and then he's going to start talking even crazier about, I want him and I want this champion, even though he just beat a 58-year-old man. I think it might be entertaining for a round, and then I think Mike Tyson is going to get beat up. I don't know if he's going to get knocked out, but he's going to get beat up.
Regardless of the outcome, Mo, he is going to get a big payday for this.
Yeah, and I thought Mike Tyson had been one of those guys who had lost a lot of money. He had turned his life around, actually started making money. He's got a popular podcast. He's been in movies, commercials. I don't know if he needs the money, but he doesn't need this fight. It's a mistake.
That goes down July 20th, I believe, from Jerry's house. It's happening in Jerry World, which it just makes sense. Where else should this fight happen but Jerry's World?
Perfect.
Mo, take us to a close on a Friday, sir.
Hey, thank you guys so much for joining Chris and I on this Friday morning. We appreciate your support. Hey, the Wire to Wire network is growing. It's because of you guys follow, subs, likes, the way you guys share us, and we appreciate that so much. Make sure you check out all the great content that we have at the Wire to Wire network. Wire to Wire, we appreciate you.
And make sure you're back here Monday morning. We're going to have JG on the show talking some Major League Baseball. We're going to be breaking down everything that happened over the weekend in the NBA playoffs. All of that and more. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by